I remember pulling my car into the familiar driveway, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the manicured lawn. My suitcase, packed with all the excitement a beach vacation promises. New swimwear, a stack of unread novels. Even that ridiculous floppy hat I bought just for this trip sat ready on the passenger seat. I'd spent weeks looking forward to this, picturing sandy toes and salty air, a chance to reconnect with my family, or at least a chance to finally feel like I truly belonged. The front door swung open, spilling warm light onto the porch, and my mother stood there, a look of mild bewilderment on her face. "Oh, Riley," she began, her voice hesitant, almost apologetic. "You're a little early. We actually changed our plans for the trip. Your Aunt Carol and Uncle Mark are coming instead." The words hit me, sharp and cold, like a sudden gust of wind on a summer day. Before I dive into my story, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and if you'd consider subscribing to my channel. It would mean the world to me and help me keep sharing more stories like this. Thank you so much for being here. I stood there, holding my breath, waiting for a punchline, for the burst of laughter that would signal it was all just a joke, but there was nothing. Her expression remained unchanging, a carefully constructed mask of mild inconvenience. Over her shoulder, through the open door, I could see their bags, my parents, and the larger, more elaborate luggage belonging to my older sister, Sophia, and her husband. Ethan lined up neatly by the stairs. A cooler sat beside them, sun hats draped casually over its handle. Passports lay on the hallway table, a silent testament to plans I hadn't been privy to. In the living room, Sophia and Ethan were laughing, heads bent over a phone, completely absorbed in their own world, as if this were just any other ordinary evening. "What are you talking about?" I finally managed to ask, my voice sounding strangely hollow even to my own ears. My mother's gaze softened slightly, but it was a tired, practiced softening, as if she barely had the energy to pretend. "Sophia's been through a lot lately. Honey," she murmured, almost a whisper. "She just asked if this trip could be just about her and Ethan. No tension, no stress. You two haven't exactly been seeing eye to eye. And honestly, we agreed. We just wanted her to have some peace." They were dumping me. Not because of a logistical error, not because of some unforeseen circumstance, but as a gift for Sophia, as if my exclusion was an act of love for her, a sacrifice for her comfort. I looked past my mother one last time. My father was in the kitchen, his back to me, pretending to stir something in an empty pot. No one met my gaze. No one moved. No one spoke a word to stop me, so I left. I climbed back into my car, the interior still smelling faintly of the sunscreen I'd applied that morning. In my absurdly optimistic state, for a few minutes, I just sat there, the engine silent, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The anger hadn't fully bloomed yet. It was something heavier, deeper, a profound embarrassment. Not just that they had cut me out, but that I hadn't seen it coming. The vague answers, the deflected questions, the constant refrain of, "We'll let you know. We're still confirming things." Over the past few months when I'd pressed about trip details, I'd attributed it to their usual disorganization, their casual approach to planning. But no, they had planned everything. Around me. Without me. Later that night, around 10:47 p.m., a payment request popped up on my phone. From my mother. A significant sum. Labeled "Your share of flights and villa." I stared at the screen, a slow, grim smile spreading across my face. Then, I sent back a single dollar, accompanied by a cryptic note, "You'll have a surprise." I opened my laptop, typed in the flight number I'd suspected they were taking, and checked for available seats. There were still a few. I booked one. Same flight, same time, same gate. They wanted Sophia to have peace. Fine. But I wasn't about to spend 5 days cooped up in my apartment, watching their sun-kissed selfies flood my feed. I found a better place. A private cabana. A luxury villa, full ocean view. Separate entrance. 5 days of pure, unadulterated solitude. I booked it all under their last name, the Prescott family. And I added a note to the reservation. The Prescott family prefers early check-in and a complimentary bottle of champagne upon arrival. I didn't want revenge. Not in the screaming, dramatic sense. I wanted peace, too. But my peace was going to come with a better view and a key with their name on it. I arrived at the airport ridiculously early. I wasn't taking any chances. Not with how perfectly this was aligning. I even parked in the long-term garage, just another traveler setting off for a week in paradise. My hoodie was pulled up, my headphones on, not because I needed the music, but because I didn't want to be seen too soon. I knew we were on the same flight. They just didn't need to know that. Yet. Boarding began, and I spotted them near the gate. My father clutched his worn travel folder like a briefcase. Even though everything was digital now, Sophia had a designer neck pillow looped through her suitcase handle, laughing with Ethan over something on her phone. My mother tapped her foot impatiently, checking her watch every few seconds. A picture of thinly veiled annoyance. I waited until the final boarding call, then some slipped past them in group 4 while they were distracted, deep in conversation with the gate agent about a window seat. I walked right by, no one noticed. It was, in its own quiet way, kind of beautiful. The plane was full. I took a middle seat, kept my head down, and slept through most of the flight, waking somewhere over the Pacific just as the flight attendants were handing out drinks. They were a few rows ahead, talking and laughing, already deep into their vacation fantasy. When we landed, I let them go first. They rushed off, eager, ready to start their carefully curated family getaway without the so-called problem child. I hung back, took my time. When I finally stepped into the arrivals area, there he was, my driver, holding a sign that read, Prescott Family. He didn't ask questions. He simply took my bag, led me to a sleek black SUV with cold towels and a basket of fresh fruit waiting in the back. I didn't even have to touch my luggage. The resort was 20 minutes up the coast, a private estate, technically, separate from the main hotels. My cabana had its own infinity pool, a hammock strung between 2 palms, and a deck that opened right onto the sand. I checked in. The staff greeted me with, "Aloha, Miss Prescott. We've got everything set up for you and your guest." I just nodded. "They'll be joining later." That was enough. Meanwhile, I knew exactly where they were staying. A decent resort, sure, but cramped. One shared villa for the 4 of them. Limited beach access, family-friendly, noisy, very public. That night, I took a walk near their side of the island. Just to see it. I stayed out of sight, but close enough to watch them shuffle onto the beach, clearly irritated about something. My guess, they had just tried to check in under their last name and been told someone else had already claimed the good room. They didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. By morning, they'd be making calls, trying to figure out what had happened. And I'd be 3 margaritas deep on a lounger, reading a book I didn't even plan to finish. I wasn't trying to ruin their trip. I was just letting them feel what it's like to be left out. The first morning felt like something out of a brochure. The ocean was quiet. The breeze came through the palms like it had been designed for that specific Tuesday. I had no messages, no calls, no noise, just a plate of tropical fruit I didn't recognize. And the steady rhythm of waves. It was the first time in a long time I didn't feel like I was orbiting around someone else's life, constantly trying to find my place in their orbit. By 9:00 a.m., the messages started coming in. The first was a text from my mother. "Did you do something with our reservation?" I ignored it. Then Sophia chimed in. "We need to talk." Huh? Something weird's going on with the villa. That one made me smile. She followed it up with a voice message I didn't even bother to listen to. What happened was exactly what I expected. They tried to check in, only to find out that the Prescott family had already claimed the beachfront cabana, and there was no second booking under that name. The staff, polite but firm, told them the name had been flagged for VIP check-in hours earlier. They were bumped to a downgraded room, farther from the beach, no view, no extras. It was the only thing available. They were furious. By noon, I finally answered one of my father's calls. He asked if I'd booked something in their name. I said I had. He asked why. I told him. I figured you'd be fine alone. He hung up. I spent the day lounging by my private pool, ordering ridiculous food just because it was on the menu. 2 women I'd met that morning at breakfast, Clara and June, ended up joining me for drinks. They were from Boston, here for a bachelorette party that got canceled last minute. We clicked instantly. Nothing serious, just easy conversation and lots of laughter. They stayed late. I didn't ask them to leave. The next day was even better. I went snorkeling in crystal clear waters while they scrambled with hotel managers, desperately trying to upgrade or switch properties. I knew they couldn't. Every decent place was booked out weeks in advance. They were stuck. I passed them once on the beach path. Near a crowded bar, Sophia saw me and did a double take. She was in practical sandals and clearly sunburned. I was in designer shades and a crisp linen shirt, fresh off a fantastic massage. She didn't say anything, as neither did I. That night, June and Clara came back. We watched the sunset on the deck, the sky a riot of colors, then crashed early, just stretched out listening to music and the gentle roar of the ocean. I didn't feel triumphant. Not exactly. I felt quiet. Still, like everything that had built up over the years, all the unspoken slights and dismissals had been released in 5 days of silence and salt air. Back home, I knew there would be fallout. There always is. But for now, they were the outsiders, and I was exactly where I was supposed to be. On the 4th morning, a resort staff member knocked on my cabana door. I thought maybe it was another welcome drink or towel service, but instead, they handed me an envelope, not from the front desk, hand-delivered by a guest. They said it had no name on the outside, just a room number scribbled in the corner. Inside was a folded piece of resort stationery, 3 sentences in Sophia's hurried handwriting. This was beyond petty. "We're embarrassed for you. You've ruined the trip. No hello, no name, no explanation, just that." I folded it carefully and slid it under my drink on the patio table like it was nothing. I didn't even feel angry. Not really, it was more strange than anything, like they genuinely thought I was just going to vanish and not notice. And now that I hadn't, I was the villain for not going quietly. I spent the next few hours in town with Clara and June. They'd found a boat tour that was a bit off the radar, owned by a retired marine biologist who offered reef dives to small groups. It ended up being just the 3 of us. We took turns diving, swam with graceful sea turtles, and drank out of real coconuts. At one point, Clara leaned back on the boat deck, the sun warm on her face, and said, "Is this what life's supposed to feel like?" I didn't answer, but I knew exactly what she meant. Near the end of the tour, June snapped a photo of us laughing. Me between them, my shirt off, a drink in my hand, the vast ocean stretching behind us. And she posted it on Instagram. I didn't even think about it at the time. Just another vacation picture, but that was the spark. By the time we got back to the cabana, my phone had 5 missed calls from my father. Then a long message. "Delete the photo. This is going too far. You're deliberately trying to humiliate the family." Then, "Sophia, you're not even pretending anymore. Is this all just some pathetic show?" And finally, from my mother, a message that stung more than the others. "We've supported you for years. You were always different, but we never made you feel that way. I don't know what changed in you, but this is cruel." I reread that last one twice. "Supported me for years." That line echoed in my head for the rest of the afternoon. Supported me. They'd spent years trying to smooth out my edges, ignore the things that didn't fit, make me small so Sophia could shine. That night, Clara and June went into town to check out a live music bar. I stayed back. I wasn't in the mood. The air was still warm, and I walked down to the beach barefoot, just needing to clear my head. As I got near the edge of the resort property, I saw someone sitting on the low stone wall by the water. David, Sophia's husband. He was alone, nursing a beer, staring out at the ocean. He saw me, but didn't flinch. After a second, he raised the bottle slightly, a lazy wave. I hesitated, then walked over, sitting down a few feet away. David didn't look at me. "They're unraveling," he said, his voice flat. "Your mom cried earlier. Sophia's been slamming doors. I didn't say anything. She wasn't expecting you to actually show up," he added, almost as an afterthought. "Definitely not like this. They all thought you'd just sulk at home." I glanced at him. "Did she ask them to leave me out?" He didn't answer immediately. Took a long sip of his beer, then said, "It was her idea. I think they just went along with it because it seemed easier than dealing with another fight." I nodded slowly, a bitter taste in my mouth. He glanced over at me, then back at the ocean. "I don't think you're wrong, Riley, but I'm probably not supposed to say that." We sat there in silence for a while. The tide was creeping up the sand. A crab skittered past us like it didn't want to get involved in human drama. When I stood to leave, David said, "They're going to keep coming after you when we're back." "I know," I replied, the words a quiet affirmation. Back at the cabana, Clara and June were curled up on the daybed, both half asleep under a throw blanket, music playing low on someone's phone. I grabbed a water bottle from the minibar and sat outside with them. June opened one eye, looked at me, then drifted off again. I leaned back and closed my eyes. Let them scream, let them post, let them spiral. This was the first time in my life I wasn't trying to earn a seat at their table. And it felt better than anything I could have imagined. The flight home was quiet. We were on the same plane again. A total coincidence, or perhaps some twisted symmetry. I boarded first this time, found a window seat near the back, and put on my noise-canceling headphones. I saw them come in, my parents, Sophia and David, tired, tan, and not speaking to each other. They didn't notice me, or maybe they did, and just didn't want another scene. The weird part was, I didn't feel anything, no smugness, no triumph, just nothing. I watched the seatbelt light flick on and looked out the window until we were high above the clouds. After landing, I ignored their glances at baggage claim and walked straight to the parking garage. They didn't try to stop me. I think even they knew there wasn't anything left to say. 2 days later, the retaliation started. First, the text from my mother. "We've decided to pause communication for a while. Emotions are still high. You crossed the line. Riley," then my father. "We hope you reflect on the choices you made and the damage done." But the real message came in the form of money. They filed a formal payment request again, demanding a substantial sum for flights, villa, and emotional distress not included. I denied it. They tried again. I denied it again. Then I blocked both of them. Sophia didn't block me. She did something worse. She started texting constantly, not to talk, but to provoke. "Hope your little stunt was worth it. You really think this makes you look strong? It's pathetic. You've always been selfish. Don't expect this to just go away." I didn't respond. Not once. She escalated from texts to voice messages, sometimes 3 or 4 in a row. I deleted them all without listening, at work. I didn't mention the trip. My coworkers asked how Hawaii was, and I just said, "Quiet. Just what I needed." No one asked for more. Clara and June followed me on Instagram. We exchanged a few messages, but it was clear we'd each go our own way. And that was fine. What we had was short, simple, and exactly what I needed in that moment. Nothing more. A week after the flight back, I got an email from my father with the subject line, "Family boundaries going forward." I didn't open it. I archived it, whatever line they thought I crossed. I wasn't interested in defending myself anymore. They made a choice to leave me out, to make someone else more comfortable. I made a choice to stop chasing their approval. Simple as that. By the end of that month, I deleted the family group chat and removed every shared calendar event I had marked. Birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, gone. The silence wasn't sad, it was clean. By the time October rolled around, it had been almost 3 months since Hawaii. No calls, no family dinners, no check-ins, nothing. The last time I heard my parents' voices was in that airport terminal when they were laughing without me. And the last time I saw Sophia was that flash of her on the path, sunburned and stunned when she realized I was staying somewhere better than all of them combined. They never apologized, not once. They just shifted into this passive-aggressive campaign to freeze me out completely. My mother unfollowed me on everything. My father blocked me on a professional networking site and a payment app, which was honestly just bizarre. Sophia didn't block me, but her texts kept coming every couple of weeks. Same tone every time. You should talk to Mom. This went too far. Riley, seriously, still playing the victim? Huh, you just abandon us? Typical. She never once acknowledged what they did. Never mentioned the decision to exclude me in the first place. In her mind, I was the selfish one because I didn't just accept being left behind. Because I didn't roll over and pretend everything was fine when it very clearly wasn't. Eventually, I muted her. Then finally blocked her too. Not out of spite, just because it was exhausting. She didn't want to talk and she wanted to keep herself angry. In early November, I ran into David at a gas station near my place. He was alone. He gave me a small nod when we made eye contact, then walked past me without saying a word. I didn't stop him, didn't care to. I was done reaching for people who didn't know how to hold anything that wasn't about them. A few days later, I got one last letter in the mail from my mother. Handwritten, a full page. She said she hoped I was okay, that she didn't understand where all this anger came from, that it was tearing the family apart. She wrote that forgiveness was still possible, but only if I came forward and admitted my part in creating such an ugly division. I folded it neatly, put it in the drawer next to my bed, and never read it again. That was the last time any of them reached out. Christmas came, then my birthday. I spent both with a few friends from work. No drama, no forced small talk, and no walking on eggshells. I thought about Hawaii sometimes. Not the revenge, not the petty satisfaction, but the feeling of that first morning alone, when the ocean was calm and no one expected anything from me. That moment when I realized I didn't need them to give me space anymore. I could take it for myself. It wasn't about punishment. It was about peace. And peace, I've learned, doesn't beg to be understood. It just stays quiet and lets everything else keep screaming. That's the last I'll say about them. We don't talk anymore, and I don't miss it. Almost a year had gone by. It had gotten to the point where entire weeks passed without me thinking about them. I'd stopped wondering if they'd reach out. I'd stopped checking for their names in my inbox or bracing every time the phone buzzed. Life moved forward. I moved closer to the coast, picked up more freelance clients, and finally started sleeping through the night again. I wasn't trying to rebuild anything. I just built something new. Quiet, normal, mine. I was seeing someone. Mark. We met at a gallery opening and hit it off without trying too hard. He didn't dig into my past, and I didn't unload it. For the first time in forever. I had space around me that didn't feel like it belonged to someone else. Then last Tuesday night, around 8:30, there was a knock at my door. It wasn't expected. I hadn't ordered food, and no one ever visited without texting first. I assumed maybe a neighbor needed something or a delivery ended up at the wrong unit. I opened the door, and Sophia was standing there. She looked rough, not in a dramatic falling apart way, but in a way that said she hadn't been winning for a while now. Her hair was pulled back, badly dyed darker, and she had no makeup on. She wore this windbreaker I swear I'd seen her wear in college, back when things still made sense between us. Neither of us said anything for a moment. Then she looked at me and said, "Mom's in the hospital." My mouth opened before my brain caught up. What happened, heart attack? She said, "Mild. They said she'll recover, but she asked for you." I just stood there. I didn't move, didn't breathe for a second. I couldn't even picture my mom in a hospital bed. Not because she seemed invincible, but because I had finally filed all of them away into a part of my mind I didn't visit anymore. Sophia kept going, her voice low and urgent. She said your name before mine, not Dad's, yours. I didn't know whether to believe her. She handed me a folded piece of paper, just one line written on hotel stationery. If I was wrong, I'm sorry. I love you either way. No signature, no over-explaining, not like her. I didn't ask if she meant it. I didn't ask why now. I just stared at the paper. Then Sophia said something I didn't expect. She's scared you won't come, not because you're angry and because she thinks maybe you've actually moved on. It was the most honest thing she'd said to me in years. Maybe ever. And for a brief second, I felt it. That crack in the wall I'd built. Not a collapse, not forgiveness, just a flicker of something I didn't want to name. I asked how she got here. She said she took a rideshare. Her car was in the shop. The Sophia I knew wouldn't be caught dead without her car. I watched her turn and walk back down the driveway without waiting for a response. I closed the door, sat in the dark with the note still in my hand. Mark texted me an hour later, just a simple, "Want me to come over?" I stared at the screen. Then I replied, "Not tonight. It's been a weird day. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't call anyone. But I didn't throw away the note either. It's still on the kitchen table, folded, waiting. And for now, that's all I'm ready to do."